Now, we're going to shift gears and go to our guest. This is Ben Garrison. He is a political activist, cartoonist. He's a commercial artist, fine artist, and a libertarian cartoonist. Now, he says he was very angry after the 2008 banker bailout, so he decided to draw protest cartoons in his spare time. He began by drawing anti-Federal Reserve and pro-Ron Paul cartoons. You've seen his work. He has very iconic anti-New World Order artwork. But now it seems like, Mr. Garrison, you're dead set on taking out Hillary Clinton. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, normally I'd be drawing a lot more anti-Federal Reserve cartoons, anti-big government, anti-forced vaccination and things such as that. But right now it's imperative that we keep this creature from returning to the White House, because if she gets it back in there now, I mean, who knows what kind of junk she'll pull on the American people. I mean, she could end up doing some stuff that would make Hitler and Stalin blush.
Right. And, you know, there's kind of a tenet in journalism when you're chasing a story, if everybody zigs, you zag. And so it appears like that's exactly what you're doing with your artwork, because a lot of people would probably go after what they perceive as the low-hanging fruit, which would be Donald Trump. And we're seeing a lot of this artwork making fun of him. Oh, he's naked. Statues are being put up in New York and things like that. But you're going after the topics that the media doesn't want to talk about. Hillary's health, how the election was rigged. Let's first just get into one of your latest cartoons, Weekend at Hillary, where you're basically showing how she is having to be propped up and dragged into this election.
Well, this cartoon is factual. It's not that much of an exaggeration. I mean, we've already seen it with our own eyes. And some people, or some doctors out there, are even starting to say that she has the early onset of dementia. Well, we've known for a long time that she's already had severe dementia when it comes to ethics. She's got ethics dementia. So I drew this cartoon to illustrate that. That's more of an illustration rather than just fact to me. I mean, just look at her. She could hardly go up the stairs, and she's got
to be propped up on pillows. She's got her stool.
Right. So now she's taking the weekend off. She's taking the weekend off, and Obama's golfing while Trump is going down to Louisiana to help out the flood victims. What does that tell you?
Exactly. And in fact, they've even said that they don't really want President Obama coming to visit them in Louisiana just yet, because he takes so much preparation. He would take all of the police that are there trying to help the families in need. They would have to go protect him. So they're like, don't even come. We don't need you right now. And I love how with this cartoon, the points that you're making is that Hillary, without the DNC, without the mainstream media, without all of her handlers, her presidential run would have expired.
It should have expired. She's unfit in so many ways, in multidimensional ways. She's not fit physically. She's not fit. When you look at her track record, it's been a series of disasters. And she's not fit ethically. She has a long, long history of bamboozling and tricking the American public.
Yeah, you're never going to run out.
Is what she is. She's a criminal, and everything she does is she leaves a trail of scandal and ethics violations, and it's just
you're never going to run out of material when it comes to Hillary Clinton. We'll be right back with our guest, Ben Garrison. And welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. We have been speaking with Ben Garrison. Ben Garrison is a political cartoonist. His website is grrrgraphics.com. That's grrrgraphics.com. Now, Ben, I wanted to kind of get your take as a libertarian cartoonist who now says you're actively working to make sure Hillary does not get her monstrous hands on the White House. What do you think about the never-Trumpers who would rather have someone like Hillary Clinton, who is completely opposite of their supposed conservative ideals? They'd rather have her, give her 4 more years to wreck this country than get Trump in.
This is something that I've been trying to discuss with my few remaining liberal friends. I've had 3 separate liberal friends write me and say, I don't like Hillary, and you're right. We know she's a liar. She's a good liar. But I have to vote for her because Trump is a loose cannon. They all said the exact same thing. Trump is a loose cannon. And so my retort was, well, don't we need a loose cannon when the corruption is becoming so obvious? It's like on display and in your face. It's time for a loose cannon to get up there and try to blow out all the garbage that's been deposited in the White House and on Capitol Hill for so many years. And so that's what I tell them, but they still insist that she's got experience. I said, well, she's an experienced criminal. And look at the disastrous record she had as Secretary of State. Look at even as a senator, she managed to get into trouble and was censored by the Senate. So to me, the obvious choice is Trump. Now, is Trump a perfect candidate? Of course he's not. Ron Paul was a perfect candidate. But Trump, actually, I believe he sincerely cares about America, and he really does want to make it great again. Whereas Hillary will get in there and continue the cronyism and pocket filling of her corrupt buddies. That's what she's going to do. I mean, do you think the leopard's going to change her spots when she gets into the White House? No, she's going to be even more emboldened. And that's why we got to keep her out of there. No, and that's why I'm going to continue to draw the cartoons to try to sway a few minds. Now, when I drew that Brexit cartoon, to my surprise, I had an avalanche of people writing me, mostly from England, and they said that cartoon influenced them, and it's like I broke a logjam. They're actually able to start talking about how they objected to the EU abuses as well as forced immigration by Muslims. And so my cartoon sort of triggered that conversation. Whereas before, they were afraid that they'd be called racist. They're afraid that they'd say, well, I'm a hater. But when I drew that cartoon, it showed up everywhere in Europe. And I'm still selling a lot of prints today. It's like, that's what a cartoon should do. That's what a successful cartoon should do. It should sway minds and at least, the very least, generate debate. And so I consider that cartoon is my most successful cartoon of the year.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, just like I was saying earlier, these are the things that people need to be sharing on Facebook, on Twitter, are these political cartoons and these memes. They're so powerful. It's so easy to just hit send or, a retweet or something like that to really get this message out there, to let people know that it's okay to ask, what the heck is wrong with Hillary? Why does she seem so unhealthy? Why does she have to take days off from her speeches? Why does she need stools to prop her up because she can't even stand? She's trying to get the debates to be sit-down debates just so people won't see how weak she is on her feet. Does this frighten you at all that we have such a powerful media protecting her and you're kind of working at this with cartoons?
Well, I try to watch all sides of the media. I mean, I even watched a lot of CNN during the primaries, and it's just disgusting how the media is supposed to be a watchdog, but now they're attack dogs for Hillary. And I'll give you an example. With one 15-minute segment on CNN, I heard them call Hillary historic at least a dozen times, and at the same time, they kept calling Trump divisive. So it's really a form of brainwashing. They're hoping people are so stupid that they could play this Jedi mind trick on them, and suddenly they're going to vote for Hillary despite all the obvious crimes and corruption that trail behind her. And so this is what's so important about alternative media. And increasingly, a lot of young people, they're not tuning into these major mainstream media channels. They're going to get their news from alternative media where they could actually find some truth and some actual investigative journalism, which isn't happening on the mainstream media. They're just carrying the ball for the New World Order installments, the selections. It's not really an election, it's a selection as far as the Democrats go. Look how rigged it was. I mean, look how they stole it from Bernie Sanders. I heard that he may have probably even won in California, but they rigged the election, the primary rules, so that the superdelegates have the final say, and thus they strip away the voice of the people. Now, in this cartoon that you're showing here, my older brother actually supported Bernie and actually sent him some money, and my older brother's featured on the upper right, and so I included him in there. And this has to be the biggest political backstabbing in history. the way he suddenly went with her. And there's something I know behind the scenes that took place, whether they roughed up Bernie or they threatened his family. They did something for him to do that, because he was well known as a man of integrity. Then suddenly he's going for Hillary. And then, if you saw him during the DNC too, he did not look happy. And this cartoon here, I was hoping there would be a lot more outrage against Hillary for the fact that the whole thing was rigged. And there was a lot of outrage. A lot of Bernie supporters wouldn't go to the convention. So what did Hillary do? She puts an ad on Craigslist for actors to show up and fill seats. So it's all such a cynical ruse on her part, and yet she still expects to be president. So I want to try to help wake people up and say, look, don't fall for her Jedi mind trick. You don't want to vote for her just because she's a woman. I'm all for having a female president, but it just can't be her, because she is not on the side of women. Just look for the fact that she accepted $25 million from Saudi Arabia, and look how they treat women there.
Well, that just proves that she's liberal and loving, and she's for women.
Well, she's not, and she's not really. She claims she's a progressive, sure, but what happens when she gets into the White House? All of her campaign promises will end up just being what they are, empty. So she's really carrying on Barack Obama's administration. She's really kind of a neocon. That's why many of the Republican neocons would rather vote for Hillary than Trump.
Yeah, exactly, because they know what they're going to get with Hillary Clinton. She is going to be the final nail in the coffin here for the West, and they're afraid of Trump. They say, he is a loose cannon. Well, how can someone be so successful in business, have such a well-rounded family, no one's had any major scandals? This isn't someone who is a loose cannon. He's someone who obviously has a lot of experience in making difficult decisions, employing hundreds of thousands of people, tens of thousands, I'm not sure, but he's a jobs creator, and he speaks his mind, he speaks the truth. And then here we have a current president who's been caught in lie after lie, and then someone else they're trying to roll in who has been caught in lie after lie. So, you're really up against a major machine with the pushback.
Well, that machine kept abusing, I'm talking about the Republican establishment this time, but they kept abusing the Republican supporters. So they wanted change. We wanted to get the Tea Party in there. And what happened? They totally discredited the Tea Party. They started calling them tea baggers. They showed them with gross disrespect. And people were angry that their voice was being stripped away. So here Trump comes along, and they can't understand why everybody wants Trump. Well, because they don't want the same old Republican establishment pulling the strings. So here we have Trump, who actually wants to help America first rather than the globalists first. He wants to build a wall. He wants to have some tariffs, NTPP, and he was thinking about America and its greatness and its prosperity of the people. I mean, look, the 1%, to the 1/10 of 1% has more wealth than the bottom 90% in America. And Trump wants to bring back some jobs to the people, and that includes bringing jobs to African Americans. I'm surprised more blacks aren't supporting Trump, because it seems like every time they try to get a Democrat in there to help them, they get kicked in the teeth. So I'm hoping that Trump will have more Hispanic and African American support as well.
Yeah, and I think the tide is really turning on that as well, because with all of this unrest that we're seeing across the country, they're starting to recognize that this is happening in these cities that have been run by Democrats for decades, and they're starting to understand that it's not just your average white person out in the suburbs that is holding them down. It is the policies that have been put in place, these democratic progressive policies that are stopping them from moving forward. What happened? We were really seeing a rising middle class within the African American community, minority communities, and then all of a sudden that completely changed. I mean, it's hard for anyone to make it into the middle class nowadays, but I think that the tide is really turning with that narrative. They're starting to recognize that it's the policies that are the problem. So do you see yourself addressing that within your cartoons to kind of talk specifically to, say, the African American community in particular?
I'd like to, but it's the overall the overall picture is this. And one of the reasons I like Trump is he also said he wanted to audit the Federal Reserve, and I think that's critical.
Yes.
That is the heart of darkness in this country. We have a dysfunctional, immoral money supply. And until we can once we get the audit, then we can get on the road to ending the Fed. And it's my hope that Trump will end up being like an Andrew Jackson figure. Now, he was also a populist, and the establishment really despised him. But once he got in there, it took him 2 terms, but he got rid of the central bankers. Who knows, maybe Trump can do the same, because we need a total money revolution, so to speak. We need a debt jubilee. I mean, look at all the kids who are like over $1 trillion in college debt. We have to do something to address that problem, because we got the national debt up to almost 20 trillion. How long could that keep going? What's happening is like it's making a tiny elite, crony elite. It's not capitalism, it's crony capitalism. They're getting far richer while all the other Americans are continuing to get poor. So I like to see Trump go in there and at least have an audit of the Federal Reserve. And he said he was open to that idea, so we'll see.
Absolutely. And so obviously, auditing the Fed is very important. What else do you see as some key issues that people really should be focusing on, what they really should be asking of Hillary Clinton if and when she ever decides to give a press conference?
I would like to see her, well, it doesn't matter what they ask her, because she's just going to answer with empty platitudes. Mm-hmm. You know, everything is arranged. She's probably not going to have one unless she has control. She has to have control of the questions. She doesn't like to be surprised. But if they could ask her some questions, it should be about foreign policy and what she plans to do. I wish we could get a president like Ron Paul that could just get us out of all the wars in the Middle East. And I hope Trump could do some of that. But Hillary's far more dangerous because she's a warmonger. She loves war. She had she murdered Gaddafi, and the
laughed about it.
Gold. She's far more dangerous than Trump, and Trump has even said that he would be willing to talk to Putin, whereas Hillary's going to be setting up no-fly zones over Syria and provoking World War III. Why? Because she enjoys it. I think she enjoys killing people. I mean, she's the one who pushed the button on Waco and had that disaster. She might have been somebody behind Oklahoma City. Because just look at the DNC guy who got shot in the back of the head. I personally think she's a murderer. We don't want a murderer like that in the White House, because then she could turn into a mass murderer.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what a lot of people say. Well, she has experience. And like you point out, she has experience in killing people. She has experience in lying to people. She has experience in working the media and getting them to do her bidding and cover up for her. She has experience going in and destabilizing countries. What do you think about the fact that they are really, once again, propping up Russia to be the boogeyman?
Well, we already saw that, how they went into Ukraine and stole the gold. Globalists want control. They don't want anybody to have their own system of money, and now Russia is standing in their way. Now, I'm not a big fan of Putin. He's a strong man and a dictator, but Trump is much more willing to talk with him and avoid war, whereas Hillary, again, I don't know what she's going to end up doing, but do we really want somebody who's got the onset of dementia with her finger on the button? They say Trump is the loose cannon and the dangerous person and dark. Well, she's the one who's dark, and she's the one who can't be trusted with the nuclear football, that's for sure. I mean, who knows? Once her health starts to fade, I don't know. Frankly, I don't really understand why the globalists even have her installed in the first place if they knew that she has these ongoing health issues. That's one thing I haven't been able to figure out yet. Maybe Alex could figure that out.
Right. If she gets in there, she's going to have to implement the New World Order plans ASAP, because who knows how long she'll be around. And it's funny how they kind of come after Trump. How dare he want to open up the lines of communication with Putin? Meanwhile, we have President Obama opening up the lines of communication with Iran. and basically setting up them up to have nuclear power.
And then lying to our faces, saying it wasn't ransom, and then a week later we find out, yes, it was ransom. And that's an extremely bad precedent to send to other countries. Hillary also is going to come after the guns, and if you've watched her during the primaries, she's always talking about guns doing this and guns doing that. It's almost like the guns somehow magically get themselves out of the gun safe, go out and kill people. And so we have to go after those guns. She is going to be a lot more hardcore about coming after our guns than Obama was. Obama tried a lot of subtleties that didn't work, but Hillary's going to be far more ruthless because she always gets away with everything, and that just encourages her to do worse things.
Right. And we know that she's going to tug on America's heartstrings with the gun grabbing, just like we saw in Venezuela when they first had their gun roundup just a few years ago. And it was all about, we want to be a peaceful society. Really, it's because they saw the writing on the wall. They knew that they were going to be in these dire straits, and they didn't want an armed, angry, starving populace. And here again, they're doing another gun roundup in Venezuela. So we know that that's going to be something that's happening here as well. My guest is Ben Garrison, and that's GRRRgraphics.com. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I am your host, LeeAnn McAdoo. We have been speaking with Ben Garrison, political cartoonist. So important to support independent artists out there who are exposing the globalists, bringing you the truth in whatever way that may be. That's why it's also very important to support independent filmmakers out there who are doing the same thing, exposing the globalists. We've got the new Amerigeddon film by Mike Norris and Gary Haven. It's now being sold exclusively at the InfoWars store. I know a lot of people out there saying, where can we get this film? We want to see it. We want to show our friends. You can get it exclusively at the InfoWars store. That's at InfoWarsStore.com. So this is Chuck Norris's son, Mike Norris, and Gary Haven. This film exposes the New World Order takeover. It's a great tool to help wake up your friends and family. And Alex Jones is so in support of this film. He is offering this special deal. When you buy 2 copies of Amerigeddon, you're going to get 4 Alex Jones films for free: Police State 4 and Police State Trilogy. So this is the unrated version. All of the scenes that Hollywood wanted to edit out, they forced those to be cut. Well, all of those scenes have been added back in to the original theatrical version. So this is going to be 4 total DVDs for less than $40 for just a limited time. That's exclusively at the InfoWarsStore.com. Support independent films. Expose the globalists. Help us take this fight to the next level. That's at InfoWarsStore.com. You can also pick up for a limited time Living Defense. It's now 20% off at InfoWarsLife.com. This is Living Defense Harmful Organism Cleanser. It is going to be sold out. We've been sold out for many months. So go ahead and secure your bottle today. It's at a discounted price. We're going to run out of this, and this is going to help you cleanse your body using organic herbs and enzymes. It's a natural cleanse. It gets those harmful organisms out of your body. That's 20% off at InfoWarsLife.com. Get it while supplies last. Now, going back to our guest, Ben Garrison, the website is GRRRgraphics.com. So, Ben, what do you think about this? We see now independent film, independent artists. This is the way that we are getting this message out there. This is the way that we're having to take it to the streets because we don't get the support now of our supposed free press.
That's a good point, and I encourage everybody to support patriots like what you just mentioned. But it's also important to do it yourself. I encourage all the young people out there. I've had a lot of young artists write me, and I say, hey, you could be a cartoonist too. Just fight that inertia, the stuff that's keeping you from not doing it, and just get out there and start doing it. And I encourage everybody to be their own citizen muckraker, be their own squeaky wheel. Everybody can do something. Everybody has a talent to do something. And don't depend on the mainstream media to tell you the truth anymore. They're actually working hard against our own best interests. So my father fought in World War II, and he was in many battles. And then in 2008, when the banker bailout occurred, I thought to myself, well, what can I do? I never did anything for my country other than pay taxes. Well, what can I do? Well, I'm an artist. I'll start drawing some cartoons. And that's how it started. So everybody has a talent out there. Everybody can do something. So support all the patriots who are and independent journalists and alternative media, but also do some of this stuff yourself, even if it's just telling your friends and family and try to inform the people that are hypnotized into voting for Hillary simply because she's a woman and they want to do something historic. Try to inform and sway those people. We all have to sharpen our debate skills and try to talk them out of it.
Yeah, and surprisingly, a lot of people want to talk about politics this time around. And a lot of people can go out there. If you want a trigger-worthy T-shirt, they can actually go to your website, grrgraphics.com, and pick up the Weekend at Hillary's T-shirt. Trigger your friends and family. Support those patriot artists out there. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I am LeeAnn McAdoo. We've been speaking with political cartoonist Ben Garrison. Now, coming up just after the break, we're going to be having Joe Biggs in studio. We'll be speaking with investigative reporter Wayne Madsen. All of that is coming up. But Ben, I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about what triggers you. How do you get inspired with these cartoons? Is it just the hullabaloo that's coming out of the media, or how do you get triggered enough to do something about it?
Well, a lot of my ideas just come like bolts out of the blue. I mean, those are the best ideas, too. I call it vertical thinking. They just come right down into my brain. Other ones that are horizontal in nature, it takes a lot of time to work them out. Well, I'm surprised that so many people out there, I mean, I must get like a half a dozen. Every day I get like a half a dozen ideas sent to me by people all over the world. They all have their own ideas for a political cartoon. And many of them are excellent ideas. I just don't have the time to do it. I'm not quite there yet where I can make a living doing the cartoons. Now, once upon a time in the golden age of newspapers, there were like 1,000 paid editorial cartoonists all across the country. And then by the 80s, it was down to around 100, and now it's around 30. So the traditional newspaper editorial cartoonist is going away, but we're seeing a renaissance of sorts now on the internet and the alternative media on the internet with editorial cartooning. So, and it's very encouraging to see a few more conservative cartoonists out there too, because for a very long time, the liberal cartoonists had a stranglehold on cartoonists, the debate as far as editorial cartoons go. And most of them are always pretty much, they were lazy. They were just like well-drawn insults were all they were. Oh, you like guns? You're a redneck. Oh, you don't like big government? You're a racist. That's what they all boiled down to. So, but now we're starting to see a few more conservative editorial cartoonists, such as myself, and have a larger voice on the internet, and that's very encouraging. And once again, I want to encourage all you young artists out there, and you can do it too. So get busy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of what Alex is always saying. We're always being sent in such great leads, such great ideas, but we can't be everywhere all at once. And it is going to take a legion of us to fight against this New World Order. As we can see, they've got all cylinders firing and really trying to silence any critics, silence conservatives, silence libertarians, with the name calling.
Trying to silence me. I sure did face that. The first thing I found out, I said, why aren't any how come no editorial cartoonists are drawing anti-Federal Reserve cartoons? And as soon as I started doing it, I found out why. Because, hey, I started getting called anti-Semitic and a Nazi. I started getting called a racist. And so anybody who's now even slightly right of center, you get called far right. Even, it's like, it's an either or situation with the liberals. If you're even slightly conservative, you're a far right Nazi. And Scott Adams, I think of Dilbert fame, had that happen to him when he came out and supported Trump. All of a sudden, he started getting called all these horrific names, and people were threatening his life and threatening his business. So he said, "Okay, I support Hillary then." He said that in a cynical way, but just to get the heat off of him, and it worked because people stopped attacking him. But with me, I'm not going to say that. I'm still pretty irrational. I'm going to go ahead and stick with Trump.
Right. And if that's exactly it. If you are a free thinker in today's society, you are an extremist. So you got to get in line.
That's right. You got to be prepared to take the flack. I was not prepared. I was really shocked because I would do anything to stop people from calling me a racist at one point. But
well, I think most people are. They just get shoved down into that little fear factor. But we are so thankful that you have not cowed to the fear. Ben Garrison, thank you so much for joining us. That's grrrgraphics.com. Go support these independent patriot artists. Go buy some prints and some T-shirts. We'll be right back.